Hello and welcome to Talking Golf with Gary. This week, the dynamic Gary will introduce you to all kinds of topics pertinent to this past week of golf. He'll give you some tidbits of information as what's coming up and take you on a tour around the world for all of the golfing highlights. Sit back and enjoy Talking Golf with Gary.
And hello and welcome to another edition of Talking Golf with Gary. I hope everybody had a great week out there. Lots of excitement in the golf world, in the tournaments. CT Pan wins his first ever tournament at the RBC Heritage there. And won by a stroke, and really everybody fell apart around him. Dustin Johnson fell apart. Matt Kuchar made a late rush, but only could get to 11 under and lost by a stroke to CT Pan. Congratulations on him for his first PGA Tour win. And interestingly enough, he was not even going to play in the tournament, because he is sponsoring a junior tournament in his adopted hometown of Houston. And his wife said, go ahead, I'll run the tournament. You go play. And he went and won, and terrific story there. So congratulations to CT Pan. Brooke Henderson took the Lottie Championship, the women's event, as she dominated the field and won that event. I think it's her 5th or 8th on the LPGA Tour total career-wise. Congratulations to Brooke Henderson. Scott McCarron won on a course that he's won on before at the Mitsubishi Electric Golf Championship. So congratulations to Scotty McCarron on a big win. He's still got that broomstick putter. He's still using that, wielding that thing with great accuracy, as is Bernhard Langer. But I hung mine up. I kind of went back to the regular putter once, see how that works out for me this season. So, but it's still around. It's still there, so in case I need it. Got to get it regripped up. All right. Reason I bring up putters is because our guest tonight is a putting specialist, and he's got a new device out, and we're going to talk about putting. Interestingly enough, the putter is probably the tool that we use the most, and you talk about the least, and probably practice the least too. And it really can be done anywhere. You can do it in your office. You can do it at home. Find a decent enough rug in your house, or buy one of those indoor putting mats, and you can practice all you want at home. You're like me, though, get a dog that's going to chase down everything. Try to eat the ball. But we don't really spend a lot of time, and there is a lot of mechanics to do putting, and we're going to talk about mechanics and about the equipment and about the his new device that he invented to help you with your putting game. Now, it's not a device for the general public. I mean, it can be. You can buy it if you've got the money, but it's not cheap, and it's. I think it's aimed more at the pros, tour pros, academies, colleges, that sort of thing. But it's an interesting interview, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. So we're going to do that just in a few seconds, and let's hear from some of our friends. And then we'll be back with that interview right after this.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for interesting baseball talk, opinions, and history.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for barbecue recipes, tips, and interviews from the world of barbecue. If you like baseball and if you like barbecue, then tune in to Baseball and BBQ. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and BaseballTalkRadio.com.
Joining me this week is Ben Malamitsas. He is the founder and inventor and a putting specialist. He runs Eminent Golf, and he is the inventor of the Koenig. And Ben, welcome to Talking Golf with Gary.
Gary, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Ben, so how did you get started in this crazy world of golfing?
That's a good question. You mean like when I started playing, or
The whole 9 yards.
whole 9 yards? All right. Well, I grew up in the Bay Area, and I played a lot of sports. Was big into soccer, and then I started getting into more extreme sports, so skateboarding, surfing, and snowboarding. And at the time, I thought golf was, a dorky sport. It was for older people. I was never going to play golf. And my dad was just starting to play and was trying to get me into it. I didn't even want to go on a golf course. But then my parents decided to move to Florida. And so that was my freshman year of high school. Moved to Florida. We moved on a golf course. I didn't know anybody, didn't have any friends. And I was like, well, since I'm on a golf course, I might as well go give this a try. And sure enough, like most people, I was somewhat athletic, but I still had a terrible swing to begin with, and was like everybody, was frustrated. But once you make that contact, it gets you very interested. And I came back, and I took it very seriously throughout high school. So that's when handicap dropped dramatically. Became a much better golfer, and at the time, this is with the Tiger era, right? This is when everybody's starting to tune into golf and wondering, who's Tiger, what's going on with this sport. And so, yeah, at first I was thinking potentially maybe I would get to play, professionally. I took it very seriously. But then went to college and, like most others, experienced college and didn't take golf as seriously.
I know what you mean.
So I went to New Mexico State for the PGM program. So that's a program to become a PGA professional and work in the golf industry. And that's how I got into the golf industry.
And what led you in the direction of putting per se? Is it just something that a lot of people, I guess it's it's the club we use the most, but it's probably one of the least practiced.
Absolutely. It is. And that's the crazy thing about it. And it continues to be. But I got into, I started teaching out of school. I actually worked for a big company, Golf Tech, learned a lot about the business model, golf instruction and so forth. But, teaching all day, every day, 10, 12 lessons a day starts to grind on you a little bit. And I realized that's not necessarily what I wanted to do. And so then I went to work for Callaway Golf. And that's when I started getting more familiar with product and was really more interested in the putters. As you know, they own Odyssey and they had a wide variety of line, and was intrigued by it. But also when I was teaching for Golf Tech, I used training aids. I used a lot of them that still exist today. And just even when I was teaching, I remember using some and thinking, this could be better. There was something about it that was missing and that wasn't truly connecting with the student. And so then after that, I started to work on my own. It was just a side project and was making prototypes and so forth. And here we are today.
It's interesting because putting is really kind of a skill, and as we just said, that it's one of the least practiced probably of everything in your golf game, and yet it's the most important. It's the final end to the hole, as you will. But as in a golf swing, there's so many philosophies to putting, and I've said this a million times on this show that I think we suffer a lot of times from paralysis from analysis in standing over putt and thinking about it. And when you're showing somebody how to putt, or when you were teaching, what was your main focus in that?
Well, it's tough because it's evolved over the years. I can tell you what I really focus on nowadays as opposed to the past. But, I think, when you're teaching somebody, there's a difference between teaching an elite player, college tour, tour player, to your everyday golfer. And the biggest difference is practice.
Right.
The best players in the world, they're practicing putting at the very least 1 hour a day.
Mm-hmm.
Your average golfer, that's probably 1 hour a month. I mean, to be perfectly honest, because they get to the course. Well, some of them don't practice, period. But if they do, they're going to hit a small bucket of balls, and then they call them to the tee and they're like, oh, let me go hit 1 or 2 putts, and then they're off. Mm-hmm. So what I key in a lot with your average golfer is posture. And the reason being is if you don't have a good posture, it's going to be very hard to make the proper stroke. And, I don't have one way of teaching, but I do believe in the fewer levers or pivot points that you have, the easier it is.
Right.
So what I mean by that is every joint, whether it's your wrists, your elbow, your shoulders, there's movement there, and they can pivot, and they're going to turn. What we want to try to do in putting is lock all those in, and really my main pivot point, what I call it, would be between your cervical and your thoracic spine. Okay. So if your posture is good and balanced, and you can get your spine, you can neutralize your spine, then it's much easier to rotate around that pivot point and kind of freeze everything else and just, rock your shoulders back and forth. Now, would I do that with, a Ricky Fowler or something when he has, a lot of wrist action? No, because Ricky does that every single day. He's been doing it for years, and he practices. So his timing is still going to be good. Yeah. When I see a high handicapper who's got a lot of, wrist movement and this and that, I know he's never going to lock that down where timing is going to be accurate consistently. It's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. The best way to achieve it, and still not going to happen without practice, but he will get much closer to that point if he can minimize the amount of levers in his stroke.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, as I said, we were talking before that I just came back from a little golf vacation in South Carolina, and when I started out, I was the putting was very handsy. I felt,
Yeah.
And I tried to not freeze. That's not the right word, but try to concentrate on just moving the shoulders and everything. And as I did, as the round went on, I got a little bit better at that. But it's like you say, it's all practice, and it's, we all wish we could practice more, and it's just sometimes life gets in the way. It's very difficult. But it is practice, and that's the main key for everything, it seems.
Sure, I understand the golfers out there. I mean, it's not as fun to hit 6-footers or practice your tempo, your speed, 12-footers, 20-footers, whatever it is, as opposed to hitting drives, and, hitting full iron shots. I get it. At the same time, and it's not going to wear you out as much, and you're going to enjoy playing golf a little bit more when you see your scores go down.
Yeah. I think part of it too is a lot of the public, the golf ranges that you go to, not on a golf course necessarily, but just like a local park that has a driving range or whatever. Sure. They don't offer that the putting area, so you go and you work on your long game, as you say, you hit the driver, you hit some wedges or whatever, and that other aspect of it isn't is just forgotten about. And I think we also are. With life and everything, when you get to the golf course, sometimes you get there 10 minutes before you tee off, and you go like this a little, and you start teeing off, and you don't really hit the bucket of balls you should, or taking the time. We're not getting there 2 hours, like they said. Tiger Woods was there, 4 hours before his round or something on Sunday. We can't do that. I'd love to do that, but I could get a little trouble. So
right, we have a living to make, and golf is long already. so we don't need to add more time to it. But you're right. In big cities like New York and so forth, it is hard to find a great practice facility, right? There's plenty of spots where you can hit balls and so forth. But at the same time, the beauty about putting is you can do it in your own house, right? Yeah. If you get a good carpet that's, somewhat slick, you can roll some putts. Now they have devices, little motion sensors like Blast Motion where you can actually capture some metrics. But the other side is a lot of people just don't know how to use that, or it's too much information and they'll use it incorrectly. Yeah. So it just, it varies.
Right. Okay, so you got involved with the industry now, and how did Eminent Golf come about? And take us through that, and then we'll talk a little bit about the Koenig and what exactly that is.
Sure. Perfect. Yeah. So, working, even in college, when I was doing internships, working at golf courses, I knew back then this isn't what I wanted to do. I didn't necessarily want to be a pro behind the counter or, managing the operation of the course. So then I went to the more so the OEM side. And overall, I just didn't really enjoy the corporate atmosphere. I feel like I had somewhat of an entrepreneurial spirit, if you will, and really loved golf, loved putting. I personally experienced training aids in the past that I didn't really agree with or felt could be better. Right. And so that's when it started. That's how most things are invented, I think, nowadays. Somebody just sees something that's wrong and wants to make it better. Yeah. And then sometimes it just takes a whole another turn and becomes something else. But that's how it started. So I made prototypes. I had a model, and I was fortunate to live in Carlsbad at the time, where it's a pretty big golf mecca, a lot of big names in that area. And I had the pleasure of meeting Mike Bentley, who was a co-founder of Blast Motion. He's now coaching full-time on the PGA Tour, but he was big into biomechanics. So I was like, this is the guy, I'd want to talk to, because he's going to tell me what he likes about it, what could be better. And that's exactly what happened. He said, you know what? This is amazing. This is definitely better than what's out there, but here are some things that are missing. So then I would go back to the drawing board, come back to him, and we kind of did this back and forth thing. And he liked it because he got a nice, he was almost building a training aid himself with me, right? He got to give me some of his pointers, and then I developed the training aid, came out with it. We first were promoting it to tour players and elite coaches, and to this day, it still is for more so the golf instructor. Right. It is available for consumers to buy online. It is a more expensive item, and it does involve, I would say the consumer needs to know a little bit about the stroke and understand what the putter does, but that's what this tool helps you with.
Mm-hmm. So explain about the tool itself, how is it made, the purpose of it, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it's extremely adjustable and versatile, and that's always what I wanted, because we're all different. We need to have some adjustability to it, and having said that, it had to have been, I started it this way, and it still is this way to this day. We machined it. So it's CNC machined from aluminum. Okay. So each part is machined by a machine, obviously. and then I assemble it. So it's a one-man show. I do everything from assembling them, selling them, shipping them, packaging them. The only thing I don't do, I have a shop here in Arizona that I use that actually makes the parts. Mm-hmm. So if I was going to go with a cheaper plastic version, certain things can happen. The screws can warp. There's a lot of issues with the threading, and then molds. Molds are extremely expensive when you're talking about 14 different parts. So I stayed with this model where they're machined, and also to understand that I get feedback from people, and I still tweak it. And so every new batch, the versions are slightly different, and there's some new features to it.
Right. So what exactly does the machine do for the golfer as far as the putting stroke goes?
Sure. So in simple terms, it's a 3-dimensional plane board. So a lot of people are familiar with a putting arc or a plane board where it's just what it is. It's a piece of metal or wood, and it's at an angle, and usually you will glide the heel of your putter along that. Mm-hmm. And what that's doing is it's, you can use the term muscle memory. Muscles don't have memory, but we're going to use that because that's what people are familiar with. Yeah. The idea is to keep your putter head square relative to its path. Okay, so it is square the entire time relative to the path. It will open and close relative to the target line. And that's where a lot of people are confused. And part of it is the industry and some of the terminology that we're using when we're saying, yeah, open and close your putter. And so people go, okay, well, I'm going to open, I'm going to close my putter. Right. And so that's when they start manipulating the club. Mm-hmm. So these training aids are meant to help guide you in understanding what a square club face feels like relative to your path. Mm-hmm. A lot, there's people that think there's a straight back, straight through. I would highly recommend they go and actually get it measured because it's almost impossible to go straight back, straight through. And to do so requires a lot of, a very awkward posture, mm-hmm. if you will. Mm-hmm. So if you think of it, let's say we're using this example of the pivot point, which is in your neck area. Right. That is at an angle. Your ball is here and your neck is here, mm-hmm. creating a plane. So automatically you're going to have, and the putter itself, most putters are out in 70, 71 degree lie angle. If you have an angle there, you're going to create arc. Okay, so this training aid is an adjustable plane, so you can create more or less arc by changing the angle. There's two sides to it. There's a flat side that's kind of like your traditional plane boards that are out there, but now we have an arm that attaches to the shaft, and the goal is keep that on the plane at all times. I get you. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Putter, guys or higher handicappers that are bad are going to struggle, and it's going to wobble all over the place because they're manipulating the club. Right. Now, the issue with that is even if you keep it and you glide the heel of your putter along the plane, you can still miss because you can come at it at an angle where your attack angle is steeper, where you would block the putt. Mm-hmm. You can still flip where you're going to pull it to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. So that's when I designed the other side, which is the track side, where essentially all variables are locked in. So scientifically, we're talking about the XYZ coordinates. Mm-hmm. To make it in easy terms, we're talking about open, close of the face, lie angle, up and down of the putter, and then loft. Right. Lofting and adding loft. Mm-hmm. That's all locked in, and you can maintain. So let's say at setup, let's just say, for example, at address, everything is 0. It's not, but let's just say it is. Right. The idea is to keep it 0 the entire time. Mm-hmm. Okay? But what happens, and we're not perfect, we don't do that. But this helps you to understand what the putter is doing throughout the stroke. And at the same time, you can adjust it. So we don't want it to feel so restrictive, so we'll take away certain features and see if the student can still do it without the training wheels, if you will. Mm-hmm.
But that's, as time goes on, you would take things away, like you say, the training wheels, and try to do it on your own, more or less.
Yeah, it all depends on the golfer. I mean, mm-hmm. There's, tour pros that are using it. They're not necessarily they're not locking everything in all the time because they're good, right? They understand what they're doing. They actually want to see, are they controlling the face or not? Mm-hmm. So it's used in conjunction with other products that are out there, such as Capto, Quintic, Sam Putt Lab. Those are great. Those are softwares. Those are great. That motion sensors that will actually analyze the stroke and tell you exactly what you're doing. The issue is it's not. Once you know, okay, I know what I'm doing. Now, how do I fix it?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, okay, I get it. I suck. What am I supposed to do? That's where I'm trying to come in and go, okay, well, this is what it should feel like. And then they can start gaining muscle memory and start understanding how to control that putter.
Right. And get the confidence to do it better, to do it the correct way instead, as you say, just going out on their own.
Absolutely.
So now you've been to tour shows and that kind of thing. The big PGA show? Have you been at that?
I have. Yeah. So I didn't have a booth. I worked with one of my friends that owns Lab Golf, the directed force putters, and they were kind enough to let me set up in their booth and by the putting green, and we had some great feedback. People, a lot of the guys in the industry love what it does. We have some pretty big names out there that are using it, and our goal is little by little just keep getting some of those top instructors to use it.
And now, you said it's available to the public and they can get it off of your website and everything. It is a pricey object.
It is.
It's not for the it can be used by the high handicap, but it's not for your average golfer. It is really for a more serious golfer at this point. Any plans to perhaps, you talked about plastic, and I know you don't want to do that, but any plans perhaps to come out with a lesser model or something for more of the average golfer as time goes on, and so to make it more in the affordable range?
Yeah, absolutely. That's always in the in the works, and I've looked at a couple different directions I can take. There's a couple accessories that'll be coming out that are meant to be used with it, but can easily be used without it. It is an expensive product, and I know going into it that my market is not all the golfers. It's a very niche group of golfers, like you said, that take it seriously. But a beginner who wants to take the game seriously, this would be for them as well.
Of course.
The thing is, so if you look at, it's putters, the price of a putter ranges quite a bit. But if we're looking at, let's just use Scotty Cameron, for example, they probably start around $350, $400, and they can go all the way up to $2,000, $10,000. It depends.
Maybe Tigers can go to 10,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some limited edition ones that are out there, and that's what people have to understand is that's one piece of metal machined, right? Right. I'm machining 14 pieces, right? So there's a lot that goes into it, and there's people that understand it and there's people that don't, and and that's life. That's the reality of the market. And before I bring out a plastic version, I want to make sure that it catches on and that there is an actual market for it. I mean, everybody loves it, and it's like you said, it's just it's expensive.
Yeah. But there is a large market. I mean, you've got every country club, this would be a good investment for them. More than one, I think they should buy, and and colleges. I mean, there is a large enough marketplace. You've got a number of different tours where enough pros that should be interested, even if as far as the web.com or the LPGA or the I can't think of the other one, the European tour. For ladies as well. So there is a large enough market for it. And who knows, maybe down the road you might come up with something for the more average price. But this is, it is a solid, good-looking tool, and it serves a distinct purpose. It is for a serious golfer, and look, we've got listeners who got kids that are serious golfers, so you may want to pick one up for your kids so they can get that college scholarship.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a tough market to penetrate, mainly because it's so different, because the market itself is used to a plastic training aid that's under $100. Right. But those products aren't doing all the different things that this can do, and they're not going to last as long as this will last.
Yeah. And you get things home and you think it's going to work, and then you're like, well, but what do I still got to do? Like you're talking about with the software. Okay, I'm closing, I'm opening the toe, I'm closing the toe, but how do I correct that? And at least your product is one that takes care of that and really, shows you how to correct these issues.
Yeah, and I think we're getting success with academies, which I always knew we would, because when you're teaching a clinic and you have several students, it's nice to be able to set somebody up on Conic and say, do this for 15 minutes. I'm going to go work with somebody else.
Right.
As long as they make sure that the posture's good, they're set up good, they understand what they have to work on, they can leave them there. They don't have to be there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some places that actually use it as a rental, believe it or not. So people will pay them to go use it for a half hour. There's different ways to monetize it, and it's just a matter of bringing it in, trying it out, understanding how it works, and seeing the feedback and the results that you're getting with your students.
Now, are you a big believer? This is a little off from the machine, but are you a big believer in being fitted for a putter as well? And I think I have to get. I had a club fitter on a while ago, and I forgot to ask this question, and I got to get one back on. But I'll ask you from a putting standpoint. How difficult is it to fit a high handicapper to the right putter because they don't necessarily have the right stroke?
Right. Yeah, I think, to be perfectly honest, now, again, it depends on the handicap. I think if you have a very high handicap, 18, 20, fitted clubs are great, but what's more important is instruction, getting better to where now we can fit you, because you're so inconsistent when you're a higher handicapper. I mean, it's almost, I will say that as an industry professional, it's not worth getting fitted if you're a very high handicapper. Mm-hmm. But once you're playing a lot and you're starting to get a consistent pattern, whether you're consistently blocking it, you're doing the right move. But when you're hitting it right and left and you have no idea, it's almost impossible. Now, putting's a little easier because the motion isn't as difficult. The thing is, when you look at the details closely, it is difficult because we're now not trying to hit, a 50 or however wide the fairway is, whether it's, 20 yards or 50 yards.
Right.
We're looking to hit a very small cup, and the 1 degree off, you're missing it, depending on how far you are from the hole. Mm-hmm. So getting back to that, when you're fitting a higher handicapper, I think the biggest thing is, length, lie, loft I wouldn't look into so much yet because it's going to change. But for me, before I really fit, I try to make sure that they can consistently get into a similar posture. So if they're getting in the same posture, then I can fit them for those details, and then they can start getting comfortable with that putter and start making some improvements.
Okay, well that answers the question.
I mean, and to be honest, I've seen, which I like a lot. I've seen fitting facilities such as school clubs that have kindly turned away people because they said, look, we don't want you to spend your money because you're too inconsistent at the moment.
Right.
Not worth it.
Right.
And that's a good thing. We need that. That's not to say that it wouldn't help. Sure, length, definitely. If you have a little 12-year-old kid who's starting to play golf, you want to make sure the clubs are somewhat to length. But to get into all the details of shaft flex, this and that,
Yeah.
we can, let's start making contact before we actually fit them.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think that you have to develop the. I mean, I was a better player years ago. I laid off for a while. Now I'm just having a rough time trying to get it back. But so I know I was played more consistently in the past, so I know a little bit about what consistency. I mean, I was never, it's probably a mid handicapper, but now it's all over the place. But that's okay. There's a lot of things going on. I'm a lot older. I got more aches and pains. So you got to work your game around those kind of things. But I wondered that because if I know myself, if I'm playing 18 holes, I could have 18 different tee shots in 18 different directions.
Right.
And how is somebody going to fit me that way if I go into a store and want to get fitted or go to a golf course, So it's a question that I'm not discouraging anybody from getting fitted.
No.
I think it's very important to eventually get, as you say, get fitted when you have some consistency.
Right.
But and a lot of people, you don't know if they're starting, whether they're going to stick with the game, and then do you want to spend that kind of money and then to have it go? I'd rather see more people buy a lower price set and at least get out there and get started and get involved, and then if you get serious, then you can move up to the better level of equipment. But I'm so glad you asked me that, and I mean I asked you that and answered that for me, and this has just been fascinating. And so tell the people where they can order this if they're interested. What's your website, and can they see? Is there a video out on it on YouTube maybe or on your website?
Yeah, so all our social channels are at Eminent Golf. The website is eminentgolf.com. We have videos on the website that demonstrate how the product is used, how to assemble it, and the different ways that you can use it, along with a few drills, and we try to add to that periodically. But also, I'm there to answer questions. I'm actually surprised, to be perfectly honest with you. I've sold quite a few of them, and I very rarely does somebody call me to ask, okay, how am I supposed to use it? It kind of, I think the guys that do are the guys that didn't actually look at the videos or read the manual, but the ones that actually give it a little time, the first time around, yeah, sure, it can be a little intimidating because there's, different things that can be adjusted. But at the end of the day, it's a simple product. It looks intimidating, but it's simple, and it's a hard good. It's not a software. It's much easier for the consumer.
Yeah, I think the software can be confusing sometimes. So it's better to actually have something that in your hands or you're connected to physically. So
right.
All right.
A lot of us learn by feel. We want to feel something. We want to visually see it. And that's, like I mentioned, that's where it helps. Even if you're an instructor, when you're using these motion sensors, it helps to have other, tools in your repertoire so that you can teach and actually give something to students that learn differently. Everybody learns a little differently, and some are going to have much more success by feeling what's right from wrong.
And I think we see that now in the golf industry with a lot of the different training aids. They have these crooked things that go on your arm or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. And the swing trainers and things like that. So, and I think it goes along with your device, the Koenig, and seeing and feeling, and I think you learn quicker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you, Ben, for coming on tonight, and good luck with this. And I hope you'll come on again in the future. We can discuss it some more when down the road when you're a multimillionaire and you're selling it all over the place. So good luck with it.
I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you having me on, and I would love to be back in the future, and hopefully by then the other products will be out, and who knows, maybe the plastic version will be out.
Okay. All right. And if you need somebody to test it,
I'll send it to you.
All right, and I'll be back right after this.
Sponsor an ad on the podcast. Support our show and let people know about your business. Email us today.
516-362-0443. That is the Talking Golf Hotline. If you've got a question, a comment, or want to leave a voicemail, say hi. That's the number to call, 516-362-0443. Or if you'd like to leave an email, you can email the show at talkinggolf@gmail.com.
Now it's time to do the calendar. Now it's time to do the calendar. Oh, hooray, let's sing the calendar. Now it's time to do the calendar.
All right, it's time for the calendar and the weekly feature that tells you what's coming up in the world of golf. And let's see, this week we've got the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. Billy Horschel and Scott Piercy are the defending champions in this team event. Another team event over in the PGA Champions Tour, as they will play the Bass Pro Shops Legends of Golf at Big Cedar Lodge. That's Mountsville. And Paul Broadhurst and Kirk Triplett are the defending champions there. They beat out Tom Lehman and Bernhard Langer last year in a playoff. I think Triplett hold a chip shot from on the first playoff hole to defeat the boys, Bernhard Langer and Tom Lehman. So that's the Bass Pro Shops Legends of Golf at Big Cedar Lodge. That's taking place this week, upcoming week, on the PGA Champions Tour. And on the European Tour, they will be playing the Trophy Hassan 2 there in Morocco to play that event. And Alex Levy, Frenchman Alex Levy, is the defending champion at that event. And the ladies are in action. They'll be playing the Hugel Air Premier LA Open. It's a mouthful here. And the defending champion there is Moriah Jutengon. So be watching for those. Moriah Jutengon has a sister also who is a terrific golfer and maybe considered better than she is. I'm not sure about that. But so that ought to be an interesting competition. So go check that out as well. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed it. And I want to thank my guest, Ben Malamitsas. And I want to thank you all for listening. And don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you listen or watch the podcast. Hit the subscribe button. That helps me grow the show and expand to new listeners. And until next time, remember, as you walk down the fairways of life, you must smell the roses, for you only get to play one round. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time on another edition of Talking Golf with Gary.